You've probably heard the term gerrymandering. It's when political parties intentionally manipulate electoral districts in their favor. It's common practice in the US, but does it happen in Canada? And for that matter, how are Canadian districts determined?
We really don't have the same gerrymandering problem that they have in the United States. One reason is that electoral districts in the United States are largely drawn up by state legislatures, by politicians.
In Canada, redistricting happens as soon as possible after the 10-year census. The last redistricting was completed 2 years after the 2011 census. Those new boundaries were in place for the 2015 federal election. The work of determining federal ridings is done by 10 independent commissions, one for each province. The members are appointed and can't be politicians or belong to the civil service. This is Pauline Benge. She teaches Canadian politics and elections at the University of Toronto.
The appointment process, I would say, is opaque. So we don't know what the person's qualifications are or whether they have even any party affiliation.
There is no commission for the Yukon, Northwest Territories, or Nunavut, since each territory has only a single electoral district. At the moment, there are 338 federal ridings. As the most populous province, Ontario holds the largest number of ridings. Commissioners determine what size a riding should be by divvying up the population into equal-sized chunks. That number is the electoral quotient, the number of voters in each riding if all ridings are of equal size. As of the last redistricting, that number was 111,166. There are also some special rules in place. First, each province has to have at least as many seats in the House as it has in the Senate.
So, what happens with Prince Edward Island? It's got 4 seats in the Senate, and so no matter what, Prince Edward Island is getting 4 seats in the House of Commons. Remember, PEI's entire population is about the quotient of 111,000 people.
Second, each province has to have at least as many seats in the House as it had in 1985. Those rules, plus the rapid population growth in the West compared to Atlantic Canada, mean politicians need more votes to win a seat in Western Canada.
The situation of underrepresentation of Alberta particularly has been a long festering sore. If it has electoral districts running well over 100,000, and some provinces have an average electoral district number of about 75,000, it's hard to disagree that Alberta has a legitimate beef.
If it feels like certain politicians have a leg up in certain ridings, it's because of something called community of interest, which groups together like-minded voters.
Many Canadians still do have questions about whether there is fudging of the electoral districts. And the answer is, yeah, there is some reason for that, because the Electoral Commission of the province can decide not just based on change of population, but also what is termed community of interest. Let's say there are 5 or 10 streets very closely packed, and those people consider themselves a community. Call it Bloor Village, Bloor West Village. Then there needs to be a good reason to break that up.
The next 10-year census is due in May 2021. After that, it's back to the drawing board.